It's been 2 years since I last made an Evil Musicians video. I'm sure you all had a feeling I'd be coming back to them eventually. I couldn't just stop at the 13 I've covered already, so now I'm back with yet another Evil Musicians list. Here are 6 more of the most evil musicians. Karl Logan, born Karl Modzelewski on April 28, 1965 in Clifford, Pennsylvania, carved out a significant place for himself in the heavy metal scene as a longtime guitarist for Manowar. His journey from a young musician in small-town America to the stages of international metal festivals is a tale of talent meeting opportunity, shadowed by a fall from grace that stunned fans around the world. Growing up in a rural area, Logan was drawn to music at an early age. He picked up the guitar as a teenager, inspired by the virtuosic playing of artists like Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads. His dedication to honing his craft was evident. Hours spent practicing in his bedroom led to a proficiency that caught the attention of local bands. By the late 1980s, he was playing in clubs and bars across the Northeast, building a reputation for his technical skills and electrifying solos. The pivotal moment in Logan's career came in the early 1990s, when he crossed paths with Joey DeMaio, the bassist and founding member of Manowar. If you don't know who Manowar are, they're basically the first real power metal band. Queen had a couple of power metal style songs on their first 2 albums. Rainbow had a number of power metal tracks courtesy of Ronnie James Dio, most notably Stargazer, which is one of the greatest songs ever written, by the way. And then there was Riot, whose song Warrior was probably the first US power metal song. But Manowar were the first metal band to frequently write songs about battles, warriors, and gods and the like. They also made what many consider to be the gayest album cover ever, but that's neither here nor there. At the time when Logan met DeMaio, Manowar was searching for a new guitarist to replace David Shankle, who had left the band after the release of the album The Triumph of Steel. And the two apparently met when Logan almost accidentally hit DeMaio with his motorcycle. Impressed by Logan's playing, DeMaio invited him to join the band in 1994. This opportunity catapulted Logan onto the global stage, aligning him with a group known for their grandiose themes and powerful performances. Logan's first album with Manowar was Louder Than Hell, released in 1996. This record marked a return to the band's straightforward heavy metal roots after previous forays into more complex compositions. Logan's guitar work on the album was both precise and fiery. His style meshed seamlessly with Manowar's ethos of celebrating the might and majesty of metal music. Over the next 2 decades, Logan became an integral part of Manowar's identity. He contributed to several albums, including Warriors of the World, which featured the anthem Warriors of the World United, a song that became a staple in the band's live shows. Logan's solos and riffs were central to the band's sound during this period, characterized by their blend of classical influences and heavy metal intensity. Manowar was known not just for their music, but for their larger-than-life image. Concerts often featured elaborate sets, pyrotechnics, and the band members clad in warrior-like attire. It's worth noting that Logan really stood out compared to his bandmates, who were all fairly buff with long hair, while he was skinny and wore a very obvious wig. He was part of record-breaking performances, including the band's 2008 concert in Bulgaria, which lasted over 5 hours and was certified as the longest heavy metal concert ever by the Guinness Book of Records. Despite their dedicated fanbase, Manowar faced criticism for their bombastic style and unabashed self-mythologizing. However, Logan and his bandmates remained unapologetic, doubling down on their commitment to delivering an immersive and intense experience for their fans. The band continued to tour extensively, particularly in Europe and South America, where their popularity remained strong. Behind the scenes, Logan maintained a relatively private life. He wasn't as publicly visible as some of his bandmates, rarely giving interviews or engaging in the spotlight outside of performances. This low profile made the revelations that emerged in 2018 all the more shocking. In October 2018, news surfaced that Karl Logan had been arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina, on charges related to the possession of child pornography. The arrest had actually occurred in August of 2018, but it wasn't made public until October of that year. Logan faced 6 counts of third-degree sexual exploitation of a minor, a serious offense under North Carolina law. The charges stemmed from an investigation that discovered he had downloaded and possessed explicit videos involving minors between the ages of 4 and 12. Manowar swiftly issued a statement distancing themselves from Logan. They emphasized that he would not perform with the band and that they were unaware of his alleged activities. The band, preparing for their final Battle Farewell tour, moved forward without him, enlisting guitarist E.V. Martel as his replacement. Legal proceedings progressed over the next 2 years. In July 2019, Logan was indicted by a federal grand jury on the charges. He pleaded guilty in July 2020 to 1 count of receipt of child porn and was subsequently sentenced in 2022 to 5.5 years in prison. The sentence brought some closure to the legal aspect of the case, but left lingering discomfort within the music community. Logan's conviction had a ripple effect on Manowar's legacy. While the band continued to perform and record, the association with Logan's crimes cast a shadow over their history during his tenure. Discussions about the band's past work became complicated, with some fans choosing to separate the art from the artist, while others found it impossible to enjoy the music without recalling the offences. In the wake of the scandal, Manowar maintained their focus on their music and fanbase. They continued touring, including performances that celebrated anniversaries of their classic albums. The band also worked on new material, striving to uphold their reputation as stalwarts of the heavy metal genre. As for Logan, his life after the arrest and conviction became shrouded in privacy. Prior to serving his sentence, there were few public appearances or statements from him. His absence from the public eye was a stark contrast to the years spent under the stage lights. The lack of information about his personal reflections or attempt at rehabilitation left many questions unanswered. Jacob Hoggard rose to fame in Canada as the lead singer of the pop rock band Hedley, a group he helped form in 2003. Born on July 9, 1984 in Surrey, British Columbia, Hoggard displayed early musical aspirations, learning piano and guitar in his teens. At 19, he auditioned for the second season of Canadian Idol. While his singing honestly wasn't very good,
ground control to Major Tom. Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. Don't wanna close my eyes, I don't want to fall asleep. I still miss you, baby, and I don't wanna miss a thing. 'Cause even when I dream of you, sweetest dream will never do. I still miss you, baby, I don't wanna miss a thing. Put your head on my shoulder, hold me in your arms, baby, squeeze me oh so tight, show me.
His energetic performance and confident stage presence made up for it and propelled him to a third-place finish in 2004. That exposure introduced him to a national audience and gave him a springboard to pursue a full-time music career. Shortly after his stint on Canadian Idol, Hoggard regrouped with his friends to officially launch Hedley. The band released its self-titled debut album in 2005, featuring songs like On My Own and Trip. These tracks found significant airtime on Canadian radio thanks to their anthemic choruses and Hoggard's distinct vocal delivery. The band's blend of pop-punk and rock sensibilities garnered them a passionate fanbase, which grew steadily with each subsequent album. By the late 2000s, Hedley had multiple platinum records, frequent appearances at award shows, and a busy touring schedule across Canada. Hoggard acted as the band's frontman and main songwriter, steering their sound in a direction that's often combined catchy hooks with upbeat production. Albums such as Famous Last Words and The Show Must Go further cemented their status as a dominant presence in the Canadian music scene. During this period, Hedley picked up numerous honours at the Much Music Video Awards and the Juno Awards. Media outlets frequently showcased Hoggard's charisma and outgoing personality, painting him as a dynamic entertainer with an unwavering drive for performing on stage. As the 2010s continued, Hedley maintained a strong chart presence. The band headlined major tours, filling arenas and often interacting closely with fans. Music videos and behind-the-scenes footage portrayed Hoggard as both jovial and hard-working, qualities that seemed to endear him to a broad demographic. Despite a decade of success, Serious accusations against Hoggard came to light in early 2018. Multiple women alleged that they had been subjected to inappropriate conduct and sexual misconduct during encounters with him. The allegations spanned several years, with some women claiming they were underage at the time of the incidents. Under public pressure and scrutiny, Headley announced an indefinite hiatus and withdrew from any upcoming promotional activities. The band's members posted statements on social media denying any wrongdoing, but acknowledged the need for reflection and a step back from their professional schedule. The situation escalated in 2018 when Toronto police charged Hoggard with 2 counts of sexual assault causing bodily harm. One was a teenager at the time of the alleged incident, while the other was an adult. Hoggard pleaded not guilty, setting the stage for a high-profile trial. The legal proceedings took place over several years, delayed by various procedural matters. During this time, Hoggard remained out of the public spotlight, making occasional court appearances. Journalists followed each stage of the case, providing updates on witness testimonies, cross-examinations, and the arguments made by Hoggard's defense counsel. In 2022, Hoggard's trial reached a verdict. A jury found him guilty of 1 count of sexual assault causing bodily harm against the adult complainant, and not guilty on charges related to the younger complainant. The guilty verdict carried potential prison time. The testimony detailed a graphic account of force and non-consensual contact, leaving a profound impact on those who followed the case. Throughout the proceedings, Hoggard maintained that the encounter in question was consensual. The sentencing took place several months later. The judge handed down a sentence of 5 years in prison, underscoring the severity of the offence. Hoggard's legal team vowed to appeal, arguing errors in the trial process. As of the most recent developments, he is appealing the conviction, and the court has yet to issue a final resolution. With the conviction, Headley's previous accomplishments have largely faded from the conversation. Music channels and radio stations across Canada pulled much of Headley's catalogue from playlists in the wake of the allegations, a move mirrored by certain streaming services. The band had previously been a mainstay on the Canadian touring circuit and award show scene, but neither they nor Hoggard have returned to active public performances or promotions. Throughout his career, Hoggard was repeatedly praised for his energetic stage presence and knack for crafting radio-friendly hits. Headley's discography featured multiple platinum-certified albums and high view-count music videos. For a time, they stood as one of Canada's most recognizable pop rock acts, bringing mainstream appeal with enough edge to attract younger audiences. Ultimately, Hoggard's conviction and the surrounding allegations overshadowed those achievements. This downfall illustrates how significant a role Hoggard played in shaping Headley's image and success. Before the legal troubles, his name was inseparable from the band. Now, with him no longer appearing in the public eye, the group's standing has disintegrated, leaving behind a complicated record of widespread popularity and disturbing criminal proceedings. No new music or official statements have come from Headley's remaining members following the trial. The future of the band remains unclear, and Hoggard's legal status hinges on the outcome of the appeals process. Whatever occurs in the coming years, the events that led to his conviction stand as the definitive turning point in a career, one celebrated on Canadian radio and award show stages. Iced Earth is known for 2 things, being one of the premier US power metal bands, and for founding member and bandleader Jon Schaffer's, quote, involvement in the January 6th Capitol, quote, attack of 2021. Even though, by all accounts, Jon was literally just there, wielding a bottle of water. I know how you wanted me to say that because I'm British, and a can of bear spray. This somehow got him 3 years probation, 120 hours community service, and a $1,200 fine. Even if you don't like that he was, quote, on the wrong side, you have to admit how silly it is that he faced any kind of legal action for doing basically nothing. Obviously, Jon isn't ever going to be on a list like this for something like that. And if you think he belongs on here, you have a very strange idea of what evil is. Anyway, the next evil musician I'm talking about was a member of Iced Earth, but information on him is few and far between. I know he's from Maryland in the US, and that before Iced Earth he was the lead singer and guitarist for a band called Naughty Naughty, and that apparently none of the other members of that band ever did anything else according to Metal Archives. Ernie Carletti came into the band during a rather rocky period. Their iconic frontman, Matt Barlow, had left the band in 2003 and was replaced by former Judas Priest vocalist Tim Ripper Owens. The band was also without a second guitarist for a while, and that's where Ernie Carletti comes in. There's no information on how he joined the band. I don't know whether he already knew Jon Schaffer or if there was an audition, but but he was hired in 2006 and he'd be fired from the band that same year when he would be charged for a truly horrific offense. On May 23, 2003, 19-year-old University of Delaware student Kristen Balmer was attending a party to celebrate the end of classes. After having 2 beers, she decided to leave at 1:30 a.m. and called a friend to accompany her home. She waited outside for her friend to arrive. While Kristen was waiting, a dark-colored sedan pulled up and the driver propositioned her, offering $100 if she would put on handcuffs. She refused, but he persisted. Eventually, the driver displayed what appeared to be a chrome handgun and pulled Balmer into the car. Once she was in the passenger seat, the driver blindfolded her with duct tape, handcuffed her hands behind her back, and shackled her ankles. He then drove for around 25 minutes, after which Balmer was forced out of the car and then dragged into a house. I can't go into detail about what happened next, but Balmer was repeatedly violated, all while handcuffed and unable to fight back. The attacker eventually took Balmer from the house, still bound, shackled, handcuffed, and blindfolded, and put her back in the car. On the way to the campus, he apologized to her, but told her not to tell anyone. He then removed the ankle shackles and handcuffs, securing her hands behind her with duct tape, and pushed her out of the car. Balmer started to scream for help, tore herself out of the tape, and ran back to her dorm room and notified police. Police collected fingerprint samples from the duct tape and determined that the fingerprints belonged to none other than Ernie Carletti, and also discovered that he had owned a dark sedan, matching the one described by Balmer. On September 18, 2006, Carletti was arrested and charged with 6 counts of rape in the first degree, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 count of possession of a deadly weapon. Once Carletti was arrested, he was of course kicked out of Iced Earth. Though John Schaefer did have this to say when news broke out: "I am in complete shock, and I find it very hard to believe to be true. At this point, I have to believe him innocent until proven guilty. I urge all others to remember that this is our way, the way of a free society. If at some point the facts prove otherwise, then I will address it accordingly." On November 13, 2007, Carletti was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree rape and 1 count of first-degree kidnapping, and was sentenced to 33 years in prison. Since his first band folded after 1 album, and because his time in Iced Earth was so short that he didn't record anything with them or even perform live with them, Ernie Carletti's legacy as a musician is virtually non-existent, and now he will only ever be known as the monster who kidnapped an innocent college student and put her through an experience that she will unfortunately carry these scars from for the rest of her life.
Position about there. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Rolf, I know that the Australians aren't affected by hierarchy and things like that, but I did notice that you kissed Sir Jim's ring when he came in. Is this an exception for you?
It was somewhere for the bishop.
I mean, we go back a long time. What was it? Several weeks ago, wasn't it, when we first met?
Several weeks, yeah.
You've been playing your records a long time, though.
Well, you played a couple of them over the years in the 60s.
1,000 times have I played.
Yeah.
Don't Be Cruel, Blue Suede Shoes.
Yes.
All those things of this young man.
May I present that to you, Sir James? Is
Oh.
it Sir James or Sir Jimmy?
No, it's Jimmy today.
Sir Jimmy.
Yeah, today's fee dictates it's Jimmy. Sir James
see.
comes a lot more
Oh,
expensive.
I see. I didn't know they were giving you a fee.
My goodness gracious.
What do you think of that?
I have never been.
Well, you've never looked at it yet. What are you talking about? Oh, you're watching it upside down.
I'm
Sorry.
looking at it upside down.
see.
I've got Antipodean eyes and I can see it upside down. What do I see? I see strong character lines. I see liquid brown eyes. I see the firm jutting chin. All together makes
Nothing
a
like it.
horrible sight.
Oh, there's a lot of bluffers in this game, I'll tell you. Rolf Harris, what the fucking hell can that man do? My mother thinks he's a painter and decorator. Tie me kangaroo down, what's all that about, the dirty bastards? What's all that about, tying kangaroos down? 2 little boys, what the fucking hell's going on? Hey!
Rolf Harris emerged as one of the most recognizable entertainers of the 20th century, a figure whose talents span music, art, and television. Born on March 30, 1930 in Perth, Western Australia, Harris was the son of Cromwell Harris, a Welsh migrant, and Agnes Margaret, who hailed from Australia. His early years were marked by a blend of athleticism and artistic curiosity. As a teenager, he excelled in swimming, becoming the Australian junior backstroke champion at the age of 16. In 1952, at the age of 22, Harris ventured to London with aspirations of furthering his education in art. He enrolled at the City and Guilds of London Art School, immersing himself in the vibrant post-war British art scene. The move to London transformed his outlook. Art school beckoned, but so did the city's variety halls. At a time when television was bursting into the mainstream, he managed to carve a niche by merging comedic tunes, painting demonstrations, and oddball props. Where other performers might do a straight monologue or juggling act, Harris painted live on canvas while telling jokes. His wobble board, a piece of hardboard that bent and twanged with percussive effect, became the whimsical sound that accompanied so many of his songs. Audiences found it quirky, different from the usual guitar and piano approach, and soon producers began giving him more airtime. In 1953, he was offered a job drawing cartoons live on a BBC program called Jigsaw, which catered to children. This opportunity showcased his ability to engage with young audiences, a talent that would become a hallmark of his career. Harris's warmth and approachable demeanour made him a natural on screen, and he soon became a fixture on children's television. The 1960 release of Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport marked a significant milestone in Harris's musical career. The song, which he wrote and performed, featured a catchy melody and playful lyrics referencing Australian culture. Accompanied by the unique sound of the wobble board, the song climbed the charts in the UK, Australia, and even reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States, though the original 1960 single version disappeared fairly quickly due to one verse in the song being considered racially insensitive to Australian Aborigines.
Let me abbas go loose, Lou. Let me abbas go loose. They're of no further use, Lou. So let me abbas go loose.
The success of this track not only solidified his status as a musician, but also introduced international audiences to a whimsical interpretation of Australian life. Throughout the 1960s, Harris continued to produce music that blended humour with storytelling. Songs like Sun Arise, released in 1960, which was inspired by Aboriginal music and co-written with Harris Butler, demonstrated his interest and respect for Indigenous Australian culture, even though he also wrote that aforementioned verse in Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport. This track also enjoyed chart success and showcased Harris's versatility as a musician capable of crossing genres. It was also covered by Alice Cooper of all bands, if you can believe that.
Sunrise, come every morning. Sunrise, come every morning.
In addition to his musical endeavours, Harris expanded his television presence. The Rolf Harris Show, which aired from 1967 to 1974 on the BBC, was a variety program that combined music, art demonstrations, and guest performances. Harris often involved the studio audience and viewers at home in his artistic creations. His ability to draw complex images rapidly while engaging in conversation became one of his trademarks. The phrase, "Can you tell what it is yet?" became synonymous with his on-screen persona, inviting audiences into the creative process. Harris's talents were not confined to the small screen. In the 1970s, he hosted several television specials and appeared on programs in the United States. Expanding his international appeal, his art exhibitions, featuring portraits and landscapes, received critical acclaim. One of the pinnacles of his artistic recognition came when he was commissioned to paint an official portrait of Queen Elizabeth II in 2005. The project was documented in a BBC television special titled The Queen by Rolf, which provided an intimate look at the process of capturing the likeness of the monarch. The painting was unveiled to a mix of reactions, but was significant as it underscored Harris's esteemed position within British culture.
Reached the stage where
I think so, yes. I've got that reference photo, which will be just perfect for all the background and for your face. I'd just like to take this opportunity of thanking you on behalf of the whole crew. Thank you so much.
I think it looks very nice. So friendly, anyway.
Yes, that was my main aim.
Well, that's very clever, I think.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much once again from us all.
That's fun. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Success.
Harris was also known for his involvement in educational programming. He hosted Rolf's Cartoon Club from 1989 to 1993, a television show that encouraged children to engage with drawing and animation. His approachable teaching style and enthusiasm for art inspired a generation of young viewers to explore their creativity. Additionally, he participated in environmental campaigns and supported various charities, further cementing his image as a benevolent public figure. In the early 2000s, he also collaborated several times with the Wiggles.
Big news, everybody! We've just been joined by our friend Rolf Harris. Let's all say g'day, Rolf. G'day, Rolf.
G'day, Anthony. G'day.
Rolf, I can see you're holding something very interesting there. What is it?
Oh, this is my wobble board.
Wobble board. Ah, that sounds very musical. What do you do with a wobble board?
Well, if you wobble it, it makes this fantastic sound. Check this.
Wow, that's a great sound. Rolf, a question. Have you ever thought about using the wobble board in a song?
Yeah, I've written a song called Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport.
That sounds like a fun song. Why don't we all sing Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport with Rolf?
Good idea.
However, the facade of the affable entertainer began to crumble in the early 2010s. In the wake of revelations about widespread historical sexual abuse by public figures in the UK, particularly following the Jimmy Savile scandal, the Metropolitan Police launched Operation Newtree in 2012. This investigation aimed to uncover and address allegations of sexual offences committed by prominent individuals at the BBC. In November 2012, Harris was first questioned by police, but was not publicly named. It wasn't until his arrest in March 2013 that his identity became known in connection with the investigation. The charges brought against him were serious: indecent assault and making indecent images of children. The allegations spanned several decades, with incidents as far back as the 1960s. His trial commenced in May 2014 at Southwark Crown Court in London. During the proceedings, the court heard testimonies from several women who accused Harris of abusing them when they were young girls. One of the most harrowing accounts came from a childhood friend of Harris's daughter, who claimed that he had sexually abused her from the age of 13. The prosecution portrayed Harris as a manipulative predator who exploited his fame and the trust placed in him by families and fans. Harris denied all of the charges, but the evidence presented painted a damning picture. The jury found him guilty on 12 counts of indecent assault involving 4 victims. On July 14, 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years and 9 months in prison. The judge condemned Harris for showing no remorse and for having, quote, no one to blame but himself. The conviction sent shockwaves through the public, as the man who had been a beloved figure for decades was revealed to have committed heinous acts. The consequences were swift and severe. Harris was stripped of his honours. His artwork was also removed from galleries, and institutions distanced themselves from any association with him. Television network pulled his shows from their schedules, and his music largely disappeared from airwaves. In 2017, while serving his sentence, Harris faced a second trial on additional charges of indecent assault. However, the jury failed to reach verdicts on these charges, and they were ultimately left on file. During this time, one of his previous convictions from the 2014 trial was overturned on appeal, reducing his number of convictions from 12 to 11. Harris was released from prison in May 2017, after serving nearly 3 years. After his release, Harris retreated into a life of seclusion, avoiding public appearances and living in Bray, Berkshire with his wife, Alwyn Hughes, whom he married in 1958. Hughes, who had been wheelchair-bound in her later years, remained by his side despite the revelations and public scrutiny. Harris was occasionally spotted in public near his home, often using a walking frame due to declining health. In one notable incident after his release, Harris made headlines in 2019 when he was reported to have entered the grounds of a primary school near his home. Witnesses said he was talking to children through the school's fence and playing with a pet dog belonging to one of the students. The school immediately contacted authorities, and although no laws were broken, the incident reignited public outrage and added to his infamy. As his health deteriorated, Harris remained largely out of the public spotlight. In his final years, he was rarely seen, with reports indicating that he had been battling neck cancer. He died on May 10, 2023, at the age of 93. The man who once dominated multiple branches of popular entertainment had been reduced to a figure of contempt and scorn, a footnote to remember only as an example of how easily trust and admiration can be abused. There would be no grand attempt at legacy restoration, no comeback specials, no heartfelt interviews to explain himself. He slipped away quietly, leaving behind uncomfortable questions and the bitter recollection of how he had once convinced everyone that he was their benevolent guide, only to be unmasked as something quite the opposite.
But sometimes people do things to one another which don't make them feel good. Now, you know the sort of touch that makes you feel good? It's a yes feeling. It feels really good. And Other touches give you a no feeling. It's like, no, I don't know why I don't like that, but I'm not too sure about that at all. I don't want that to keep going. I want that to stop. That's a no feeling. Just because he's a grown-up does not mean that you have to do what he says. You could say, go away, please. You know, some people, especially grown-ups, they just don't listen. They don't pay any attention to you, don't take any notice unless you actually come out and say, no, please stop. There are good secrets, but there are bad secrets, and they want you to keep a bad secret. It's a secret that could hurt other children because they might play those same games with those other children. Sometimes grown-ups just don't listen to kids, or they don't believe you. They say rubbish, or they say, how can you tell such lies, you wicked child, or how dare you say something like that. You've just got to keep trying until someone believes you. You could always take your dolly and you could use that to point out to your mummy where you were actually touched, where you didn't want to be touched. Or you could draw a picture and you could point out on the picture where you were touched. Remember our song, my body's nobody's body but mine. You run your own body. Let me run mine. Say no. You've got to learn to trust your own feelings.
Now watch me whip, kill it. Now watch me nay nay. Okay. Now watch me whip, watch me nay nay. Why me?
Ricky Lamar Hawke, better known by his stage name Silento, entered the spotlight almost overnight. Back in early 2015, he was just a young artist from Atlanta trying to make a name for himself. He recorded a track called Watch Me Whip /Nay Nay, a playful dance-driven number with a repetitive hook and a straightforward call and response format. It's also very annoying.
You already know what it is. Watch me, ooh, watch me. Do the stanky leg, do the stanky leg, do the stanky leg.
It spread fast, initially through social media platforms, where short dance clips were taking over. The song's simplicity and catchy refrain caught on with millions of listeners. School kids and celebrities were filming themselves performing the signature moves, filling timelines and feeds everywhere. The track went on to peak at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, turning the then teenage Silento into a household name, at least for a moment. He performed at award shows and on morning television, making appearances that positioned him as a bright-eyed newcomer with a hit strong enough to cement him as a cultural reference point. But, as is often the case with viral music hits, replicating that success proved difficult. After Watch Me reached saturation, Silento tried releasing other singles and projects, hoping to sustain the interest that song had generated. Although he continued putting out music, none of it reached anywhere near the same level of popularity. His name still drew some attention, but it became less and less frequent to see him in mainstream coverage, and he seemed to fade into the background as newer trends and sensations took over. In the years following his breakthrough, Silento's public appearances became more sporadic, occasionally popping up at smaller events or on social media, but the sense of initial excitement had long since worn off. Then, reports began surfacing about troubling behavior. In 2020, he faced legal issues unrelated to his music, including arrests over alleged domestic incidents. These situations didn't dominate headlines the way his music once had, but they did suggest a shift in the narrative around him, from the once fresh-faced entertainer to someone wrestling with serious personal problems. The real shock came in early 2021. On February 1st, Silento was arrested in DeKalb County, Georgia. According to police, he was accused of shooting and killing his 34-year-old cousin, Frederick Rooks. On January 21st, authorities found Rooks with multiple gunshot wounds, and after reviewing residential security footage and other evidence, they identified Silento as a suspect. He was taken into custody, and as details emerged, people struggled to square the image of the young artist who once urged everyone to dance along to a light-hearted track with the grim reality of a murder charge. As the case developed, it became clear that this was more than a misunderstanding or minor offense. In August 2021, Silento was indicted on charges that included malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Court documents painted a picture of a far graver situation than anything previously associated with him. While he had pleaded not guilty, the indictment and the severity of the accusations indicates that the legal battle ahead would be lengthy and complicated. The stark contrast between the cheerful dance-focused music video that catapulted him to fame and the allegations of deadly violence was jarring. With the legal proceedings ongoing, Silento spent the next period in custody, and all talk of new music, performances, or promotional appearances fell by the wayside. The industry and fans who remembered Watch Me as a defining moment in the 2010s viral culture now saw his name mentioned primarily in connection with court dates, legal filings, and pre-trial hearings. Any conversation around his career was overshadowed by the murder case. Publications that once praised his ability to spark a dance craze were now reporting on bail hearings, mental health evaluations, and potential sentencing outcomes. While his ultimate fate depends on the outcome of the trial and judicial proceedings, what had already happened was enough to rewrite the story of his career. The era of Watch Me seemed like a distant past, a relic of a time when his future looked full of opportunities. Now, with a murder indictment hanging over him, Silento's name became tied to the kind of headlines that no public figure ever wants to see next to theirs. Over the course of a few short years, Silento's journey had taken him from one-hit wonder status to a defendant facing serious prison time. His early career had shown him as a young artist with a singular moment of fame. Later revelations and the criminal charges leveled against him painted an entirely different picture, one of a fallen public figure, now known as much for the alleged violent act as for the music that made him famous in the first place. Bard Goldvik Ethon, aka Faust's involvement with Emperor and the Norwegian black metal scene reached beyond music into territory many would never have imagined at the time. Born on April 21, 1974, he grew up in a small Norwegian community before making his way into an underground network of extreme musicians, fanzines, and record collectors. By the late 1980s, black metal was still a tight-knit movement, centered around a small circle of individuals who were trading tapes, developing their own mythologies, and forging a style defined by speed, harsh vocals, and a raw, unforgiving sound. Faust, still a teenager, found this environment intoxicating. He loved the intensity, the refusal to bow down to mainstream sensibilities, and the shared belief that this was something larger than entertainment, something that felt, at least to them, like a cultural shift. When Emperor formed in 1991, the lineup included Isan and Samoth, who had been experimenting with various musical ventures and honing a signature approach that balanced fierce aggression with eerie atmospheric keyboards. Faust joined not long after, becoming part of what would soon be recognized as one of the most inventive bands in black metal's early history. Before Emperor recorded their debut album, they were known locally for blistering rehearsals and a handful of rough releases. Faust's drumming on these early recordings wasn't just about speed, though that was certainly a factor. It was also about unpredictability. He integrated unusual patterns and a sense of menace that matched the feverish guitar work and shrieking vocals. Each member of Emperor brought something distinct to the table, and Faust's contribution was a dynamic, forceful rhythm section that never settled into a dull groove. The environment surrounding Emperor was anything but peaceful. Norway's black metal scene at the time included not only musicians, but also individuals who were interested in pushing boundaries off stage. A climate of hostility toward organized religion led to a rash of church burnings. Musicians and hangers-on alike dabbled in controversial imagery, corpse paint, animalistic stage get-ups, and references to occultism and misanthropy. Faust had a front-row seat to these developments. The record shop, Helvet in Oslo, was a gathering place for many central figures, and Faust spent considerable time there, soaking up the emerging ethos and forging relationships that would define his early adulthood. On August 21st, 1992, Faust crossed a line that would forever eclipse any artistic legacy he might have hoped to leave behind. While walking in Lillehammer late at night, he was approached by Magna Andresen. Accounts suggest that Andresen, who was intoxicated, made a sexual advance. Faust responded by persuading Andresen to follow him into a nearby wooded area, where he proceeded to stab him multiple times. The killing was vicious and offered no apparent motive beyond a moment of violent impulse. At the time, no one in the scene knew what he had done. He returned to Oslo the next morning and carried on as if nothing had happened. Andresen's murder went unsolved for nearly a year, leaving authorities baffled and the community uneasy without fully realizing why. During that period, Emperor pressed forward. They entered the studio to record what would become In the Nightside Eclipse. Widely regarded as a milestone in black metal, the music they created stood apart from much of their contemporaries' output. It was ornate, layered with synthesizers, and graced with a sense of grandeur that stretched beyond the genre's primitive beginnings. Faust's drumming on that album was relentless and precise, pushing the compositions forward and accenting them with blasts of sudden aggression. He recorded these parts knowing full well what he had done back in Lillehammer, never confiding in his bandmates. His involvement in the murder remained a terrible secret, with no sign in the studio sessions that something so grim lurked behind the scenes. Meanwhile, the black metal scene's reputation deteriorated as more incidents piled up: church arsons, intense rivalries, and escalating personal conflicts. The police took a keener interest in the subculture when Varg Vikernes of Burzum was arrested in August 1993 for the murder of Mayhem's guitarist Euronymous. A spotlight fell on everyone connected to the scene. Investigators combing through known associates and participants in Oslo's black metal underground eventually uncovered evidence pointing to Faust's role in Anderson's murder. Arrested in 1994, Faust confessed. The trial brought the truth out into the open, shocking those who had no idea that one of Emperor's own had committed such an act. He received a 14-year prison sentence. Norwegian law often focuses more on rehabilitation than long incarceration, so even a 14-year sentence was considered lengthy within that system. While he sat behind bars, Emperor released In the Nightside Eclipse, followed by other influential records, but the drummer who had helped shape their earliest sound was absent. Faust's absence did not halt Emperor's progress, but it stained their history. Interviews from that era hint at confusion, regret, and a degree of disbelief among those left behind. Faust served 9 years before being released in 2003. When he emerged, the black metal scene he had once helped build had changed. Many bands had matured, shifted directions, or broken up. Younger generations of fans learned about Faust's involvement in Emperor and the murder through documentaries, magazines, and internet forums. He played the drums again with other groups, including Blood Tsunami and Scum, taking smaller roles and performing mostly in Europe. Though no longer in the eye of a cultural storm, his name still carried the weight of what he had done. Concertgoers who had recognized him knew the story, and it clung to him even if he seldom spoke about it publicly. Any claim to mystique or creativity could not blot out the act that defined him off stage. Faust remains a figure who played a vital role in one of black metal's defining albums, yet the fact always comes paired with the grim knowledge of a murder committed in a dark forest decades ago. It's impossible to discuss his drumming or his place in Emperor's early lineup without acknowledging the violence that changed everything. His attempts at moving on in the music world, his subsequent work in other bands, and his efforts to live quietly after prison never fully erased that night in Lillehammer. Those who delve into black metal's origins inevitably stumble upon Faust's name, confronted not only with the music he recorded, but also the brutal crime that will forever overshadow the beats he once laid down behind the drum kit.